Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Alejandro Perez, the CGI Nerd, and in this video we're going to take a look at creating a low poly rock generator tool, and we're going to be using procedural modeling techniques to achieve this. So we can see we have different shape and size rocks here, and if I go through and play, you can see that we make it dynamic and it's in 3D and everything. We got a variety of different shapes going on. So that is what we are aiming to achieve, is just being able to create all of these different types of rocks. And let's get started. Okay, to start out, I'm going to create a sphere. So that's the base geometry. We're going to start off to create the rocks. Let's name this rock and jump in. I'm going to change the primitive type to polygon, and then the frequency, I can kick this up. Let's put it up like at 50, and I'm going to make this a VDB polygon. So we're creating a VDB based off of the polygon geometry that we have right now. And then I am going to do a convert VDB. And let's display that. So we're going to switch it from volume to polygons. And you'll see that we get the polygon mesh right here, which is great. And what I'm going to do is tell it to remesh. So that kind of like smooths it out, and we're back to a sphere, but it's a little bit, if you look at it right now, it's kind of not as uniform as it was before. So that's kind of nice. It gives us a more interesting pattern with the geometry when we're working with it. Then let's just go in and subdivide, and then we can increase the depth. We want a high number of polygons, even though we're going to end up with low polygon geometry. I am breaking this up into a whole bunch of little polygons because we're going to be using a process that we need high polygon count first. And then basically we're going to do a similar process that we're doing up here to get our low poly versions at the end. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do a attribute fop. And I'm going to jump in here. So I have information from the geometry and then how we're going to output it. I'm going to right click and do a uniform, or unified, sorry, noise static. So we get this. And what I'm going to do is connect the P here to the position. So it's basically position to position. There we go. And now I want to take the noise and connect it to a displace along normals. And then that's going to be connected into the noise is going to be connected into the mount. Then the displaced position, we're going to connect to the position of the output geometry. So that is what we get so far. We get kind of a blobby shape. What we can do is switch from simplex to a different type of noise, and it will give us different results. One of the ones I like for rocks is whirly noise. You can see that that starts giving us an interesting result. What we can also do is add a multiply node. And we get this here. And then let's add a constant. And we're going to multiply the second result right there. So right now the default value is 0, what we're multiplying that other value from. So basically the noise that we're getting there, we're multiplying it by 0. But as we increase this, you can see that we get the full result. So depending on how much noise you want to have for your version, you can do something like this. So this gives us a kind of good starting point. If we wanted to get more variation, we can adjust the offset, and you can see that we get different results based off of different offset values. Also, if you wanted more of these faces, we can take the frequency and adjust those values, and you can see kind of what we're doing there. Basically adding or increasing the frequency of the noise. But I'm just going to have something kind of like this. That's okay. Okay, so we can jump out here. And then right now we're kind of getting a close idea of what the geometry looks like. But if we want to be a little bit more accurate, we can turn on or add a normal here. You'll see when we activate this, it should look a little bit different, maybe not too different, but because we affected the normals, because we were displacing the geometry and everything like that, it can cause some shift there. I'm going to wait until the end to add the normals, but in case yours was looking a little bit weird, that is why. Then you can go to let's do an ISO offset, and that will turn our volume here to a or our geometry into volume. Then using this volume, we're going to scatter points. And by scattering points this way, we get a whole bunch of points that fill up the volume that was the rock that we created. Then what I want to do is create a Voronoi fracture. Connect the Voronoi fracture here. And let's visualize that. And this could take a little bit of time, especially with how many pieces I have here. So there's a lot of points. It might be a little bit better for me to have less points, but these will basically be like kind of small rocks. I could also push escape and try to decrease the number before I go forward. And I think for right now, what I might do is that, and then scatter. Let's just visualize the scatter because this will be fast. Force total count, I have 1,000. Let's say we give ourselves 100 different potential rocks. Now we can go over here to the Voronoi fracture. And this should be a little bit faster. It does take quite a bit of time because we have such a high polygon object. Actually, what we can do to make this a little bit faster, let's cancel that. Let's go up here after the attribute VOP that we have here. I'm going to push Y and then drag across the two lines to disconnect everything. And all I'm going to do is just remesh the geometry. And you will see this will give us a kind of low poly version of this geometry that we have here. There we go. So we have a good looking rock there. If you want a little bit more detail, you can change this target size, make it smaller, and then the edges are going to be that much smaller, which means that you'll get more polygons when you are subdividing it. So this gives us significantly less geometry than we had a moment ago. Then I can try to connect it to the ISO offset and the Voronoi fracture. Just make sure that we get this information there, and then I'm going to jump over to the Voronoi fracture. We can see that was a ton faster. It did fracture everything. Let's look at how it fractured. I'm going to separate this, and I'm going to say exploded view so that we can see everything. There we go. So we have a whole bunch of rocks here. The rocks are kind of good right now, but we can see obviously there's a lot more polygons on the outside surfaces, and then the inside are very kind of minimal. So let's remesh it again. There we go. So we have a whole bunch of different rock shapes here. So that looks better. The geometry is more evenly spaced out. Yeah. So let's take this now that we have all these individual rock faces. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a loop. So for each connected piece. And basically, if we look up here at the Voronoi fracture, we have the piece prefix. So we are naming it piece, and that's what it's connecting here. So we're taking the connection attribute class, and then we're going for each fetch piece or point. So right now we are going to be fetching the pieces based off of the naming convention that we have there. So what I want to do, because this is a little bit weird to have them all over the place like this, we can do a what was it? Size, match size. There we go. I'm going to connect a match size here. It's going to go there, and then I put it here. So we need something to match the size to. I'm going to create a box. Connect the box down here. And then you'll see that it basically takes all the pieces and puts them right on top of each other. So I'm going to add a delete node. When we start off here, it's going to delete let's try a blast node. They're basically the same, but there we go. That looks more like what I was looking for. Okay. So we're deleting everything. I'm going to tell it to delete non-selected. So right now we haven't selected anything, so it's not going to delete anything, but we can tell it like piece 1. And if we get rid of this, we can do different pieces on here. And we get different individual rock pieces. So what we can do to make this a little bit more functional is to create a null node. And I'm going to create a parameter. I'm gonna make it an integer, and let's say this is rock num. I will just call it rock num. And then I want us to do a range from 0 to 99. Accept. And now what we can do here is in the blast, let's select one of the pieces there. And then here in the null, I'm going to right click on the rock number that we have here. And I'm going to do copy parameter. Then inside of the blast, I'm going to highlight the 0 and then right click and do paste relative reference. So what you'll see now is that if I scroll through here, we can get all the different rocks that we have. So we can choose which rock we want. Then to finalize this, I might do something like add a normal. So that way we get it to look a little bit better. Then I can go in and maybe add a color, or if I wanted a material, I can add a material there. I don't have a material that I built right now, but just for right now, I'll just add a color and then pick a rock color that I want. So it'd probably be something kind of brown. Okay, so I added a color, but you can add a texture, or you can export the rock to be textured and sculpted inside of something like ZBrush, or do a whole bunch of cool stuff with this. Oh, another thing that will be super useful is adding UVs. So UV project, then we'll stick it here in between. I'm going to switch it over to polar. And now if we look at the viewport here for the UVs, you can see that we have a UV texture that is created for the rock that we can use now to apply textures to. Okay, so let's switch this back to the viewport. And there we go. So that's kind of how we can create a pretty quick rock generator inside of Houdini. Obviously, these are low poly, and we could spend more time and make more advanced versions, but this is kind of a cool way to just get the base building blocks. Or if you need low poly, this is great. You can start off with using rocks like this. All right. I hope you found this useful. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.